All right, guys. So Marjorie Taylor Greene chimed in after the horrific mass shooting that happened in Texas. And, man, she said a lot of dumb things over her time in office. I'm reminded of, like, Jewish space lasers or whatever that quote was. But this might take the cake. So she says, our nation needs to take a serious look at the state of mental health today. Sometimes meds can be the problem. It's going to get worse. America is failing our youngest generations from decades of rejecting good moral values and teachings. We don't need more gun control. We need to return to God. Okay, every line gets dumber and dumber. So she starts out talking about mental health. Let me ask you a question. What Republican has proposed a bill on mental health? I understand that they bring up mental health as a dodge to obfuscate and deflect from the conversation about gun control, even minor gun control. But what have they proposed on mental health? Nothing. In fact, there was a bill during the Obama years on mental health proposed by the Democrats. The Republicans opposed it. Medicare for all would include universal mental health care. Republicans oppose it. Are any of them proposing their own bills on mental health care? No, none of them are. So they say mental health, but then if anything comes up on mental health, they'll all vote against it. It's the exact same thing that happened in the baby formula debate, where we sent $40 billion more dollars and more weapons to Ukraine, and Republicans said, this is crazy, what are we doing? We have a baby formula shortage here. And then bills came up to address the baby formula shortage with millions of dollars, and they all voted against it. So, I mean, they're such immense liars, it's astonishing. So, I mean, I understand they're deflecting and dodging, but what I would say to them is, look, shit, I'll cut a deal with you right now if you say you care about mental health care. Here, let's make it simple. Universal background check bill, one strike, you're out. If there's anything on your record that's questionable, you're not able to legally buy a gun. Training and permit system, okay? So that's the left-wing portion of the gun, and then what do you want on the right-wing portion of the gun? I'm all ears. I'm all ears. What do you want? You want universal mental health care? I'm all for it. I'll sign onto that right now. Do you want a security guard in all school, highly trained security guard, armed security guard in all schools around the country? Shit, I'll make a compromise with that. I'm fine with that. But they wouldn't do any of it. In fact, even if a bill came up with universal mental health care treatment and the armed security guards, which they say they want, they wouldn't even vote for that. Because they're not actually in favor of universal mental health care. They're not. Then when she says sometimes meds can be the problem, I mean, this is when you're drunk on Alex Jones right here. A serious point would be, hey man, there's a mental health crisis here. Maybe as part of that universal mental health treatment, there will be more meds that are prescribed for people. I mean, yeah, is there some overuse of some medications? I'm sure there are. But there's also plenty of people who need medication who don't get medication. There are plenty of people walking around with severe anxiety, with, extremely terrible thoughts 24/7, and they're unmedicated. Medication would help those people. There's plenty of people who need a Xanax or a Klonopin, and they don't get it, and they can't get it. There's plenty of people who are severely depressed who need an SSRI, or who need some other form of treatment, who don't get it, and they can't get it. But she's saying, well, meds can be the problem. This is a theory that I've heard for a long time, and it never made sense. This idea of, like, the drugs are leading to the mass shootings. That's not true. And they say, oh, well, this mass shooter was prescribed SSRIs. Yeah, but sometimes it's when they're off their meds that they do the shooting. It's like they weren't taking their medication, and then they did the shooting. So, it's just, she flips it right on its head. Sometimes the meds can be the problem. I mean, look, I haven't seen anything yet that this guy was or wasn't on any mental health treatment. He was severely bullied, we know that much. There were kids who thought, like, yeah, that kid's going to be a mass shooter in the future. He was super antisocial, very quiet, had a violent streak. And she comes out and blames medication that in many instances could probably prevent future mass shooters. Now, unbelievable. Then she says, oh, America's failing our youngest generation from decades of rejecting good moral values and teachings. Oh, thank you for that wonderful policy solution. tell kids, now you better be good and you better be moral. That'll fix it. What does that even mean? What does good moral values mean? Her idea of good morals and values is not a secular or a humanist idea of good morals and values. My idea of good morals and values means we also look after people in poverty and have a social safety net that gives people universal health care and universal education and a universal basic income. She's not in favor of any of those things. I would classify that as having good morals and good teachings and good values. She wouldn't look at it that way. She looks at like good morals and values as like, let's teach kids that transgender people are wrong and they need to accept who and what they are. By the way, there was a conspiracy going around about the shooter. Number one, that he's an undocumented immigrant. That was false. And number two, there was one that he was trans. That's false too. And Paul Gosar, another total moron, promoted that theory. I think eventually he deleted the tweet, but he was promoting that idea. Which is, of course, they would believe anything they read instantly about this guy, as long as it suits their narrative. And then she says, we don't need more gun control. Look, whatever your opinion is on the Second Amendment, whatever your opinion is on gun control, there's no denying the empirical facts that when you look around the world, the countries that have the strictest gun laws have the fewest mass shootings. We have the most lax gun laws and have the most mass shootings. Now that in and of itself, if you say, that still doesn't convince me because I support the right to own a firearm over any, consequences that may come as a result of that, well, then that's a fair position to take, but you have to acknowledge the facts on it. And she most certainly doesn't. We don't need more gun control. Well, if you want to lower the gun deaths, yeah, more gun control would help. There's no doubt about that. And then, of course, the cherry on top, we need to return to God. Yes. Because if we simply shove religion down people's throats, as we all know, that will never lead to violence. A very large percentage of the wars that have been fought throughout human history are over religion. My God is bigger and better than your God. I mean, shit, we can go on and on here. ISIS, Al-Qaeda, the Lord's Resistance Army. A lot of the, there was nationalism involved and whatnot in Ireland, but there was a heavy element of Protestants versus Catholics. We need to return to God. So what, if you just teach kids the 10 Commandments, nobody's going to shoot each other? Look, they just told them murdering is wrong, so that's it. We're good. Nobody's going to do anything bad. We just said it. We just said, thou shalt not kill. Now, by the way, let's turn the Bible a couple more pages and see God committing a genocide. We need to return to God. I mean, it's childish. This notion is childish. By the way, a lot of these people who commit these mass shootings are Christian or are of any other of a number of religions. It's not like it's only done by non-believers. I mean, the percentage of non-believers in this country is what? 20% of the country? So you would expect maybe 2 out of 10 mass shooters to not have, a religious inclination. It probably tracks exactly with the statistics more broadly in society. But no, just we return to God, we'll be good. Well, George W. Bush was supposed to be a Christian man, and he illegally invaded a country and killed hundreds of thousands minimum of innocent civilians and back torture. So this notion, well, if we just return to God, that'll fix it. I mean, it's just, in so many ways. In one tweet, she managed to be wrong like 4 or 5 times. It's just absolute drivel. It's moronic. And the fact of the matter is, I mean, keep it real, she's not looking for answers. She's not looking to address the problem. And she won't be honest about why. The real reason why is she supports the right to own a firearm with little to no restrictions above any of the consequences of that policy. It doesn't matter how tall you make that body pile. She's still going to say, nope, a right's a right. Which, hey, fair enough, but she won't even be honest about it. It's pretending like she wants to solve the problem while proposing solutions that are not at all solutions and wouldn't address the problem even the slightest bit. And it's insulting to our intelligence, the things that she floats. So, I mean, what is she actually calling for here? Let's do something on mental health, even though I'm not in favor of anything on mental health, and I'd vote against it instantly. So she just lies right off the bat. Meds can be the problem. So less medicine, less psychiatric medicine, as if that'll help fix the problem. Just tell people good things are good and bad things are bad. So you should try to do the good things and not the bad things. How's that for, brilliant, mind-blowing teaching. Definitely not gun control. And God. Well, thank you for your, very thoughtful breakdown here. And we're going to get a whole lot more of this from other politicians. So just expect that. Lauren Boebert already came out and said something stupid. It's deflection, it's obfuscation, and it's stupidity. And again, totally separate from what your views are on the Second Amendment. You have to acknowledge this for what it is, which is just low IQ nonsense. Ever since Adpocalypse, when YouTube defunded all independent news and politics overnight, we haven't trusted them. We know they can pull the rug out from underneath us at any time. If you enjoy this content, please consider tipping $1 or $2 per month on the Secular Talk Patreon. Link in the video description box below. Thanks for your support.